It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen. It's a podcast and YouTube series where those that collect tattoos and piercings and other forms of body art get their most common questions answered. Brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo and the Axiom Body Piercing Studio. Well, we have the usual crew, the motley crew, the crew that do over directly to my, or not directly, but what, two pieces?
One over.
Sitting over there.
Over there is Jimmy St. John, tattoo artist at the Skin Kitchen. Next to me is Jack Lowe, owner and operator and tattoo artist of the Skin Kitchen. I'm DaVo. I own and operate Axiom Body Piercing. And then over to my left is, what is your name?
Brent.
The shooting star.
I just wanted to actually say something.
I think it's Brent.
Brent Starr, tattoo artist.
I thought it was Brad.
Brad, yeah.
Weird.
Trey or
Brains
something.
on Brad.
Brent.
Look at the big brain on Brad. Anyway, what we're going to talk about today is it safe to get tattooed or pierced?
Right?
Most times.
Boom.
Depends on where you're at.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
Oh, no, I'm kidding.
But it's
It's a good question.
you know, that really depends on where you're getting it done, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's different standards in different states. You know, the state requires, because hey, all they care about is keeping you safe.
Well, yeah.
So
Sarcasm.
they will regulate in different fashions. Some places don't regulate at all. Anybody can grab a machine and go to work on anyone,
Anywhere.
and it's fine. Other places they go so far as to have you write down the stock number and of
Batch
your
of
ink
ink and all that,
of every ink you
Everything.
used in
and
the
every
tattoo.
cartridge patch. And
Yeah,
Virginia
so
did that.
so you could have a whole other show on. Does that keep you safe?
Right.
Are the artists gonna be safe without someone telling them, hey, don't put their blood in him? That could be bad.
I guess maybe we should kind of start with, like, there are industry standards.
Yeah.
And those, if you're going to a professional studio, well-ran studio, there is a standard that they set, largely to protect the general population and the clientele, because it's really hard to have paying clients when they're dead
And ourselves.
or have caught something.
And you know what I found out, not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but you can only rob a corpse once.
yeah, they don't,
Darn it.
It isn't like the magic pants when it reappears.
It doesn't like respawn or nothing. It's it.
And it gets messier the longer it's around.
Oh man, the stink.
Anyway, now you made me lose my train of thought.
I know. I
Remember,
do
kids,
that.
no matter where you're
There's
at, if you're tattooing in a kitchen, you're probably not safe.
But see, each studio has like policies in check of certain standards that they will follow. It's in part to protect the public, but it's also important that they are doing those things to protect their own health. Because our exposure as a professional in the body piercing industry or the tattoo industry is enormous. If we are not doing the things properly and somebody comes in with a very easy to catch bloodborne pathogen such as hepatitis, we are at risk of contracting hepatitis. That not only would ruin our career and end it pretty much, but put us in a very serious health issue, which the cure from the couple of people I've known that gone through it is not a fun experience in the least bit. It's up there with cancer as far as going through that.
And some people really don't want to die.
Yeah.
And other people really don't mind that much. And there's ways of telling where your artist, what column they fall into, and that helps.
Yeah.
Because like you were saying, the safer they are, they're keeping themselves just as safe. With cross-contamination especially. If you're not following your cross-contamination guidelines or your rules, you're putting yourself at risk, and then the next person that sets down at risk. But man, you're at risk all day. So you're really just kind of kicking yourself in the butt, worse than anything. Not to mention what that means to your clientele. So
okay, so there's that. Just to get into this, there's that industry standard for both piercing and tattooing. Then there is the regulated government version. Usually with the regulated government version, it is more about making sure that the person has gotten some type of proper training on cross-contamination prevention and bloodborne pathogens, maybe some first aid, and they've answered a test. That's probably that's kind of the way the Iowa one is, and you paid your dues and you've done it on time, and they'll come in and they'll inspect, but the people that are inspecting aren't really people from the health industry. They're generally somebody that they're the same inspector that's going to inspect the restaurant on the corner the next day.
They have a checklist.
Yeah, they have a checklist you have to go through, like, oh, you have running water. Oh,
Yeah, they're
you
not
don't-
tattooers or piercers or anything.
which kind of makes a situation where it's kind of a false positive
Little
kind
bit.
of
Yeah.
thing where it's like,
False security in a way.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
licensed by the state. So what I would say is the first thing you want to look at is if there is any regulations in the state that you live in, that person isn't licensed. That's a big, giant red
Huge.
flag saying, no, don't go there.
Yeah, and the way they do it here kind of falls in the middle from what I've
Yeah.
found. I've worked, a couple different places, and I've worked in places where literally there is nothing saying that it's wrong for anyone to do anything regarding tattooing. And then places that I've heard you have to find a physician who's willing to basically take responsibility if you mess up and put their name as, hey, if they mess up, I'll cover it. And that you have to have like a doctor kind of on
it's-
staff in a
it's
way.
what,
Wow.
They
Yeah.
have a term for it.
Yeah.
Where was that?
You're kind of operating under their license, I
Yeah.
guess, in a way. I think I think it's Florida.
Florida sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think
and I think they have
was-
the same thing on the piercing. And I want to say, like, the lowest level you can get in that is like a PA, a physician assistant, or
Yeah.
a certified nurse,
So
practitioner, not just.
is that going to are people in Florida then maybe more protected? Again, yeah.
It depends on how involved that medical professional is in the business,
Yeah.
or whether or not it's some guy that's just writing
Sounds
off a
off.
script and
Right.
making $2,000 a month or a percentage of the profit every month.
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah.
is it better to, have these rules or not? Because there's another argument, like here in Des Moines, you have to be 18 or older. There is no parental consent law.
Yeah.
But there's places where they allow that, and that's no problem. So I've had people that will take their kids over, to where it's okay and go to a professional. But the other side of that is, well, I'm not old enough, but Jimmy's got or Jeremy, sorry, Jimmy.
No worries.
Down the street's got one. So, and I really want it, so I'm going to go there and get it.
Yeah.
So that rule is putting that person at risk. It's kind of in a way forcing them to put themselves at risk of getting sick.
Right.
So in that case, law bad. You know,
and I think it's hard to do it, and that's usually why, especially in the United States, where they put out these laws, and then they go, okay, you guys, you try to figure out how to enforce it,
right?
and then we'll leave the rest of it to the court system, because it's you're trying to find this happy balance, and it's not going to be happy for everybody, and this may or may not be effective.
You're right, and that comes with trying to monitor and control everything.
Yeah.
So it's not realistic. I know you want to make as much money as you can. I know you want to, have your fingers in as much as you can. But remember, that takes a lot of manpower,
And a lot of money.
of specialized people that care enough to even do a good job at what they're doing. So that's not the case most times. So it turns into this spaghetti ball of crap that's just more of an annoying nuisance that kind of puts the people that are putting you through this for sometimes no good reason, they're forcing you to do.
Yeah.
So, so basically to sum that up, that don't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
So,
Being licensed by it just means you did those things, and those things were put together by people who really don't know what's going on. They just want to get their money, and so there's rules in place that if you pay me and you follow these rules, then I'll allow you to make a living. So. What does that mean? That doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. That doesn't mean I know anything about doing a good job, or I'm an artist, or am I gonna? There's such a.
It's kind of on the customer to do their homework.
yeah.
Right.
And back to the licensing thing, it's like the state is not very good at licensing things in general.
No.
Not generally. It's
If
government,
all you have to do is ride down the street in your car, and you're going to encounter a lot of people that have licenses that have absolutely no idea what they're doing.
Right.
Exactly what I mean.
Right.
So
And it's been the bare minimum to get that information. You paid your fines, you did this, you paid your taxes, and you take this test
That
once.
qualifies you.
Yeah.
And then they do eye tests
Well,
on you,
I
and
think-
that's about it.
I think there's confusion too in that, some people just assume, I guess, that we're a lot like the hair industry.
Oh, no.
Where we have to have ongoing training
Boards and all
we
that.
have to,
no.
go through this. People, if you don't know what they put hairdressers through in this frickin' state, it is mind blowing.
It is.
Now, so they might think that, well, you've had a person look and watch you do what you do, and you do it right, you do it good. No, nothing like that. All that inspection says is that I know a basic way to not get people sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the main thing it says is I gave money to do that.
I'm on the up and up.
I've paid for the privilege.
Yeah.
I jumped through the hoops and got this thing. That doesn't mean I know what the hell I'm doing.
Right. And that's where it falls back to the customer. And like I said, you got to go, you have to do your homework. You have to check out the shop, ask around, look at the shop when you go in. Is it dirty? Is it clean? Are the people clean? Do they have clean clothes on? Are they well kept? Are they filthy? Is there motorcycle parts laying around the tattoo shop?
Right.
Is there, just all these things you need to check into kind of on your own because it's kind of on you.
Use your head
to do it.
Yeah,
use your head and make a good choice. And
longevity, as far as an artist or an establishment being around for a while, says a lot.
Yeah.
You get a tattoo from the guy that's leaving tomorrow morning to be in somewhere else. That's you're rolling the dice, really, that you can't ask. You don't know anyone. You've never seen anything really in the living flesh that he's done.
Right.
You're just hoping that, he's still doing it.
yeah.
And but if there's a place that's been on the corner for since your dad was your age getting tattoos, and I mean they've said, hey, if you will allow us to be here, if you want us to be here, great. But if you don't, then we won't.
Yeah.
So the people have kept, they've made a good enough impression. They're doing good enough business in the same spot in front of the same people that, so that says something as well.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, maybe that shop has turnover like crazy in artists. It doesn't mean that shop might overall have a good rep, but still they, artists come in and out. So that's not a for sure thing.
And, a lot of people like to ask about, and a lot of that comes down to you have to dig a little bit. You have to ask that follow-up question. Because, you'll have people, it's like, oh, yeah, I've been tattooing for 20 years. And then you'll look at their work, or piercing for 20 years. You look at their work, and you're like, yeah, you've been doing it horribly for 20 years.
Yeah.
How could you still be that bad?
And a lot of times it's because they're going from one place to another place.
Well, we had a customer today ask me and Brent, how long have you guys been here? Because he's like, how long have you tattooed? And I'm like, I started in 99. And Brent, told him when he started. And then he was like, well, how long have you guys tattooed here? And I was like, well, I'm coming up over 3 years, almost 4. And Brent's 2.5, almost 3. Yeah. And he was like, oh, man, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, that's a good sign. I was, yeah. That's cool that you asked that.
And and that's all a part of that.
Exactly.
That follow-up.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's part of all the other things that are good to do to at least better ensure that you're going to get a good tattoo.
Yeah.
In the like I've said, the big one for me is just meeting people on the street, seeing what they got in the flesh, just living. They're not preparing it, taking a picture, adjusting nothing. And not only that, can you see it in the flesh, you get to talk to the person who got it and ask them about the experience.
Like, how was
so
it?
there's really no better way to get an idea of what a shop, get an idea of the work that comes out and, how they came across when they did it.
Right.
But that, again, that's only one part of several things that are good to do.
Plus, we were talking about this earlier. You were explaining. We don't have to go through your long description.
Right. Yeah.
We were talking about what went into the preparation of doing a tattoo, and not even 5-10 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
The actual industry has become increasingly, because it's grown. Not only is a majority of the people that are involved in it a lot more educated about the risks than they once were, and the information is readily available, but thanks to the newer machines and the cartridges and everything else, it's a lot more idiot-proof than it used to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's safer from that standpoint.
Yes,
Good
from that
point.
standpoint, absolutely. Everything you get now is sterilized. When you open the package, it's already sterilized.
Yeah.
It's no longer up to the individuals to do all that.
It went from really every ounce of that responsibility being put on the individual that prepared that equipment to do your tattoo to now opening a box, popping out a pre-sterilized, pre-made cartridge that you pop in your machine, you use it for the tattoo, and then you throw it away.
Yep.
So you don't have to wonder if, okay, did that guy wash all the flux off of that needle? Did that guy short his runtime because he was running behind? Did that guy not scrub very good in that crevice that
Yeah, did he skip one of the sterilizing steps?
all of that is
Exactly.
all of
back
that
in the
is
day,
gone.
you had the needles. You had to make your needle hits.
Yeah.
You had to sterilize. You had to sterilize the bars after you burn all the needle
the
hoses,
tubes.
Off, and you had to reattach them. Then you had to autoclave them again.
Well,
then you
that's
had to
just
bag them.
more on our side. I don't know if that.
Well, back in the day, that's what I'm
safety.
saying. Like that was one.
There was a
artist that
lot
had
of
to do
different
that.
ways to
You know,
How
but
does
there
that
was-
make you less safe?
Because you had individuals you're relying on. Like if you didn't clean
Yeah.
your needles, or if you didn't sterilize out of the 4 steps that you got to sterilize to make a damn needle,
There's more of a margin of
there's
error.
more of a margin of error. It's not like it is now where it
Just
comes,
like what I was saying. Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Piercing's a little different because we still use a lot of tools and they're reusable. There are some studios that have like one usage tools,
Yeah.
but they also will charge you an arm and a leg for absolutely
it's more
everything
expensive.
they do. And even though a lot of them go, oh, we're environmentally conscious, I don't think throwing away 50 pairs of forceps a week,
Is
when
environmental.
even hospitals don't do that, is going to be environmental.
Well, some tools are meant to be stainless steel, scrubbed, cleaned, autoclaved, and ultrasonic, and reused. I mean,
And one of the
dentist office,
questions,
doctor's
especially
office.
if you're going into a piercing studio and they use tools, is ask them how they process.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Hey, can I look at your
does
sterilizer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
How does that work? Do you have a sports test that you've been done
Yeah,
on your
if they get
autoclave?
upset because you ask these questions, you probably don't want to get work done.
That's a sign right there.
That's
Yeah.
a bad sign.
And they should almost be excited to show
Yes.
you that because nobody asks.
No,
they
And we
don't.
go through a lot of bullshit, and we pay a ton of money to have that.
To do that.
Yeah.
And nobody cares other than the people that want the money.
Yeah, I think on sterilizing.
Oh, I get to use it? I get to use it.
Yeah.
Well, remember when we were in Sturgis and the inspectors would come through, it'd be like a group of them, and they would come to inspect the tattoo shop, the tattooers that were ready, and you had to have like a certain amount of ink caps, a certain amount of A&D, a certain package, separate packages, a certain just count stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, was most
Yeah,
of it.
that's
and
true.
we had we had a couple boxes that were like that count of like new boxes of everything, and we had handed off to each other.
Yeah.
because we all had the stuff we needed, but
'cause
instead
most
of going
of
through all
the-
your stuff, you just did the quick. Hey, I got a
Yeah,
box.
when they-
Because it
down
didn't
the
make
line.
any sense. A lot of these rules didn't keep you safe. It
No.
didn't do anything. It just was a hoop.
That
you
was,
know?
that
They
was
should-
people making laws that,
that don't know what
anything
they-
about what.
Yeah, you didn't check
Exactly.
to see if my stuff was sterilized correctly. You just said how many did I have.
Right.
They
Yeah.
spend
Like-
time on debating on how much money they can get, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess we gotta have some standards. Put them together, Bob."
Instead of asking questions like where's your water source? How
Nope.
are you cleaning your hands? What are you using to disinfect the
Nope.
skin before you do this? What are you doing with the waste?
Yeah, none of these
Well,
are the,
and
the questions.
and the flip side of that is some of their rules are so archaic and scary
Yeah.
that you're like, you would allow me to do that?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
then why am I paying you? Like, you are. This makes no sense.
St. Louis was like that. We did a convention in St. Louis one time, and the inspector came through, and he's got this little light meter. And he's like, "Oh no, you're not going to be able to tattoo."
Oh,
I'm like,
God,
"Why
yeah,
not?" And he's like,
okay.
"It's not. It's too dark." And I reached over and turned over my desk lamp, that I put over my tattoos, and I'm tattooing. And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's going to be bright enough." I'm like, "Do you want to see my autoclave stuff or my sterilization?" "Oh no, I'm just here for the light."
Now you're
I'm like, "You're just making sure it's not too dark for me to tattoo." That's
well, yeah,
it.
because you haven't paid your money.
Yeah.
Well,
and
you haven't paid your money to be allowed to be there. So
Right.
it's
And the
just-
reason why these are written this way is because whoever the expert was when they wrote this law in 1982,
1915.
that's how they thought that was the pinnacle
No tattoo
of the
by
industry.
candlelight.
Well,
Yeah, because like you couldn't even use LED lights when I first started. They were like, you can't have just fluorescent lights. You have to have a real bulb.
Yeah, real
and it
natural
has to
light.
come out this
Well,
way.
and
all-
this
like,
is
Really?
This is where I'm at on that. It's like, what if that's part of my process? What if my eyes are sensitive to certain things?
Yeah.
What if it doesn't look bright to you, but my eyes, that's where I need to be to do the type of art I do. That's like saying, well, your chair needs to be 22 and a half inches off the ground. Well, then my knees are up in my neck and I can't work. Well, you know what I mean? It's like you're making this worse because you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You're trying to squish all these people that operate in different ways, into so stick to the spore tests. Stick to the
basics.
the ramps so everybody can get in.
Do you have the proper biohazard containers? Do you have sterilized stuff? Do you have plastic on the floor?
Is your machine
stuff
over
like that.
23 ounces? Oh, it's too heavy.
But they're worried about, like I said,
what you should be worrying
worried about dumb
about
stuff.
is, and part of the job of any situation like that is you also should be focusing on educating the people that work in that industry so that they're safe.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the bottom line. That's something that always annoyed me about it.
Absolutely.
And why every time they came through, so we're thinking about regulating piercing. What do you suggest? And I always go,
Not regulated.
what you need to do is go to the barbers and talk to them about it. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, unless you're going to do it at that level where it's so intense and constant education and constant payment, and the state feels like it can afford that, all you're doing is telling me to do what I already do and making me pay a fee, which is ridiculous. And it's not going to save anybody anything.
Exactly.
Right.
Especially when I've been to studios here, not recently, where they had carpeting on the floor and dogs running loose, pooping and crapping all over the place.
Right.
And the guys, petting the dog
Are they
with
still
his
around?
gloves. No, they aren't.
Of course.
Yes,
of
exactly.
course. So why are you here? You know what I mean? People they're grown-ups. Okay.
Most of them.
And they walk into a shop and they feel that it's too dim in there. They're probably going to leave.
Yeah.
If they come in and go, seems good to me, they can choose to stay. Right?
Right.
That's awful, isn't it? We need a state to come in and make sure that all these retarded people that can't decide for themselves they're safe.
Yeah.
Get the off my porch,
But
man.
most of it is, at the same time, most of it's reactionary.
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah.
complains.
That was going to be my question, DaVo. So when you were approached by this rocket scientist about all this,
Who knew absolutely nothing about
was there
piercing.
a rash of people dropping dead from piercing?
No.
Then
What
why,
it was is
again,
it was one guy from some Bopunk little county that was in the state house that wanted the attention. And he got his name in the paper about 7 or 8 times over it. And then the same thing happened that happened the 3 or 4 times before that. It got put in committee, never to be seen again.
Right.
So one thing I think we definitely need to cover is, when you kind of touched on it, is its cost. The more clean you are, the more careful you are, the more safe you are, the more you're going to invest in what you're buying.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're still sitting there making your own needles, you're not really worried about sterilizing it properly or upkeeping the sterilizer or buying the proper, pouches and all of that stuff, it's going to save you money.
Right.
And so when people are like looking at that and they start looking at that price of the tattoo, cartridges, it's reasonable now.
Oh man, I just don't say that. I just ordered yesterday.
Okay. But see,
Oh, my
that's a
God.
cost of doing business.
Right.
You could probably hire somebody. You could hire one of the guys from across the street that's down in his luck and doesn't have a job to sit there and put bang needles together for $4 an hour.
You can
and
buy
save
cheap
yourself
ones.
some money.
Yeah.
But the reality is the quality is going to go down.
Right.
And so is the safety.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
with piercing, a lot of it comes down to if the price is cheap, it usually means
They've cut corners.
They're cutting corners. They're cutting corners on the jewelry quality. They're cutting corners on how clean they are, how often, whether or not they're paying their people. There's all kinds of things that are going to make that cheaper price.
And the worst thing is a place that's doing both.
Yeah.
yes,
They're cutting all the corners and their prices are through the roof, and that's
awful.
worse of that's worse
Well,
of them all.
and I learned over the years, like, you can buy, there's tons of places that make cartridges.
yeah.
And some of them are really cheap, and some of them are really nice and not cheap. But like the difference in the tattoo when you use a really nice cartridge that's put together right,
Yeah.
and the cheap cartridge, it's still sterilized and it's still the same size needle and all that.
But
The difference in the tattoo and the ability to do the tattoo is unrealistic how much it is.
And it makes your job easier.
And it makes your job a little
That's
easier.
worth an
And
extra
like,
40
people
cents
come
a
in with
card.
these pictures on the Pinterest or whatever. I want a tattoo like this. Well, in order to get close to that picture that you brought me that isn't even real, I have to use like the best stuff that I can get my hands on to get me as close to that as I can.
Exactly.
You know, because you can't take a broken pencil and make a smooth drawing with it when you know instead of a nice long regular new pencil.
We just had that. When I was ordering last night, we had that
last night.
Yeah, I was like, I was looking at that price and I was like,
Man,
jeez. And I'm thinking what it was, a cart, when I broke it down and stuff, and I thought about it, and I'm like, but what am I going to do? I'm going to buy cheaper ones.
Yeah,
and know that my tattoos could be better, but they're not because I saved a couple bucks a box or something.
Yeah,
like it just
it doesn't make sense.
Because a lot of times you'll see that hike because I see it on piercing needles, and there is a difference in piercing.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Because of the level of sharpness and how they're manufactured
and the job they need to do.
Right.
Yes, and you'll look at it and it's like, oh wow, that one's $8 more, and then you start thinking about it. What's 8 divided by 100?
Yeah.
Am I really that concerned about that? And
it's crazy.
It's hard not to get in that mentality because we all have to look at that bottom line occasionally.
And you're buying all of that at once. And then you get it back a little bit by a little bit. So it's a big old bite, and you never see that big bite come just right back as a lump.
Right.
It kind of comes back in little payments, so you don't really see it.
Steady little strain,
and then before you know it, you're putting out a big old lump again. So it hurts every time, even though not only is it the right and the ethical thing to do, it's making your job easier.
Yeah.
And it's lessening the time it's going to take for me to do the tattoo.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more comfortable for you, less chair time for you, and really save you money.
And,
if you look at it that way,
exactly.
I could use the crap, and your tattoo's not going to be very good. And
like I can pierce you with this nail, and it doesn't cost me anything, but it's going to be miserable for you and me because it's going to be horrible work.
Yeah.
Or I can spend $20 on this needle that's going to make it really fast and nice and clean.
Yeah.
And
I
the same thing goes down
spend the
to
$20 and do
jewelry.
that. Same thing. Exactly.
And it's where you put the
value
value.
Of your stuff.
Where you put the value on it. Your friend might get a tattoo. It's a piece of trash, but when you're like, that's a piece of trash, they're like, yeah, but he has this weight. It didn't hurt at all. but you laugh, but to them that was more that had more value than really what it looked like. Some people are like, I don't care how much it hurts, I want it to look awesome.
Good,
so they value it the other way, and then those two sides try to convince each other they're crazy, when all they do is value different things a little different, and are like, well, that's cool, man, I hope you like it. But I like these.
We had a piercing shop back in the day in Virginia, and they would take baby Orajel. And they would, instead of lube, and they would put the piercing needle in it. And when they pierce your tongue, they say, oh, we're going to numb your tongue.
Yeah.
Well, when they pierce your tongue with that baby Orajel and it went through your tongue, of course, when it came out, your tongue was numb right there.
Yeah.
Because it was baby Orajel.
After the piercing was done.
As they're doing the piercing, it's not really numb before.
And it's instantaneous.
But they go through it, and when they come out, my tongue's kind of still numb. Like, they buy into it. And I was just like, good God. And then I looked at, like, the little price sheet. They're charging $50 to do that. It's a little squirt out of a baby Orajel tube, and they get, like, 40 customers out of one tube.
Just like someone saying...
$1.90.
And they have no way of knowing whether or not that person's going to have an allergic reaction to it.
Exactly.
Plus, how clean is the tube that they keep pushing out into this needle.
Exactly. Like, it's just disgusting.
Like, hey, I know you took the medicine and still got sick, but you didn't get as sick. Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
I bet with another booster, you won't get as sick next time as you did this time.
I know you almost died, but you probably would have died if you did.
This time we only had to take it up to the knuckles. Next time,
it's going up to the elbow.
Could have gone up to the elbow.
Yeah, I mean, hell, you lucky you still have a head.
So, the biggest advice I can give anybody of whether or not it's safe to get tattooed or pierced is ask a lot of questions of the person that's selling you their art.
Yeah,
that's what they are doing.
I would say to that question, the simple answer is tattooing or piercing safe? It is if you do your homework and you go to the right people.
Yeah.
It is, yes. I'd say answer overall, yes.
If you find yourself in a kitchen debating if this is a good idea, chances are it's probably not.
As long as it's a skin kitchen.
There's only one
These skin kitchen is okay, but not a kitchen in a house or apartment.
Right. Even though he bought the ink and the needles,
well, he said
doesn't
meeting
necessarily
behind the
mean that's a
dumpster.
good idea.
He said meeting behind the dumpster at 8 o'clock.
The other thing we should probably address, and this is probably another episode in itself, is your own personal safety if it is safe for you to get pierced.
Oh, right. With the medical and all that.
Medical
that is
and
kind
wise, if you have any any diseases that affect your ability to heal, bloodborne or your blood to clot or any of that stuff,
Yeah.
you really should consult your physician.
Absolutely.
If you have any question about, I
yeah.
got this little bump here, and I don't know if it's going to be okay, ask your
the doctor.
freaking doctor.
Yeah.
Because really, we can't tell you whether it's
No,
okay or
we
not.
don't know
I
if
think
that's
that's
gonna be-
Legally, medically, if we can't tell you to take an aspirin, or we could be,
Right.
if you get hurt
Yeah,
by
we're
the aspirin,
liable.
we're screwed. So you're really putting us in a pinchy position when really the doctor's going to give you most of the time. Some doctors are like they hate
Jerks.
us, but most of them are they're coming
gonna go.
around. They're
But
good
I think
people.
that's probably our
But-
next episode. That's next topic.
Okay,
But
so we'll
yeah,
do that maybe
yeah.
next time.
Yeah,
When we get around to
we'll
this.
wrap it into something else and sell it to you, and you'll never know. And-
But yeah, the biggest things are your health, being sober. Also,
Good night's
any
sleep.
type of
Good food.
medications you're on, you should check. But
yeah,
we'll get into it more the next time because there's a lot of other stuff you can do to prepare.
yeah.
ton of
There
stuff.
might be a part 2 to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
That sounds good.
Well, I think we beat this one to death.
Yeah, it had it coming.
Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you'd like to give us a thumbs up or share with other people, share the love, spread it around.
Give it to your friends.
If you like merch, you like swag, you like t-shirts and such, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. Till next time, here's hoping all your tattoos and piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, we hope to see if your body piercing and tattooing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you for watching or listening.
See you guys. Be
Bye,
good.
guys.